The Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is urgency. Sometimes we experience urgency and it leads us into a place of panic and anxiety. But let's look at how we can utilize urgency to spur us to inspired action. But before we get started, good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. Great to have you here with us this morning, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Before we get started talking about urgency, let's just take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together and rub those hands vigorously together. Feel the tickling, feel the tingling, the pressure, the temperature, all those sensations that allow you to become present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So urgency, this comes from a conversation that I had with someone yesterday who is in the process of moving. And we all know that moving can be just such a disruptive thing, so much to handle, so many changes. And they were talking about how their to-do list is about 2 miles long and feeling very overwhelmed and anxious about getting everything done. And we started talking, everything felt so urgent. And in the course of our conversation, we were able to discover that, in fact, not everything was of equal urgency, first of all. And by being able to sort through this list and make some distinctions about what was truly urgent and what wasn't, then it relieved some of the pressure, the experienced anxiety of this overwhelm and this pervasive urgency about everything. And I think what happens for us often is that when we experience this sense of overwhelm and urgency, we lose perspective, and it becomes debilitating rather than allowing something to an urgent call to something be an inspiration. So I think that we have the ability to transform this sense of anxiety into, hello, Sue. Wonderful to have you here. Good morning. Good morning. I'm so glad you're joining us. Sue says, good topic. Yeah. So what happens is we work ourselves into a tizzy, right? And if we can discern what's really urgent, we can maybe connect with the inspiration to move into that action, to connect with it as a call to take care of something rather than a cause for panic. And the thing that allows for that transformation, I think, is the discernment about what is truly urgent. So I know we've talked before about sort of four quadrants of to-dos or tasks, or things that we're wanting to accomplish. There's the urgent and important. So this is a really great distinction. Oftentimes we have urgency about things that aren't important, and that adds to our list of things that then can become overwhelming. So urgent and important, those are the things that go at the top of the list. And that means something that's calling for immediate attention. So I'm trying to think of an example of something that would be urgent but not important. Like, I'm not coming up with an example at the moment, but maybe one will arise. Anyway, urgent and important. So it might be urgent typically is something that's time bound. So Rosalind says, when I hear urgency, I associate it with money, like paying higher shipping costs to get there on time. Taxes. What if we took the aspect of money out? What would have the same importance? So urgent is, I don't, that's interesting that you associate it with money. I don't necessarily. Urgent is deadlines, like I have to submit this by a certain time in order to keep things rolling in work, or what else could be urgent? Rosalind says, or missing the bus, having to wait for the next route. Right. So it's urgent that you get out the door at a certain time to be able to get to the bus. Anyway, I wish I could come up with an example for you this moment, but I can't. But anyway, in your life, you probably can make the discernment urgent and important. And then there are things that might be urgent but not important, where somebody is just really requiring or demanding a response to something that they have some urgency about it, but it's really not high priority. And then there is important but not urgent. And the things that are important but not urgent are the things, for instance, that we might be doing to forward our overall well-being, to be putting things in place for a vision that we have, to be, for instance, maybe developing certain skills in order to go into a new career, for instance. And that's important, but it's not urgent because we don't have a deadline. And we get to make time for those things when we have a list of all kinds of things that are urgent and important. The things that are not urgent get kind of shuffled to the back. And then there are things that are not urgent and that are not important. And a lot of times those end up on the urgent list because they're not really urgent and they're not really important. They're just to-dos. So for an example, this person was talking about needing to sort through some files in order to be able to move. Good morning, Jenny. Great to have you here with us. Jenny says, I feel urgency to find peace and connection. And that's an interesting thing, because again, urgency feels, like there's a driver that has some tension to it generally. And that's kind of counterproductive to the notion of peace and connection, is when there's this anxiety around it. It makes it difficult to find that peace and connection. It's challenging as all get out, because so many of the things, so many of the things that impede us from getting achieving circumstances or creating circumstances that we want are the things that the wanting of the thing that we want is impeding us from getting it. So it's a paradox, and then that's just a real challenge. But let's get back to this idea of urgency and how we can use it to inform us, because once we sort through, once we are discerning about what is truly urgent, what is truly something that is calling for immediate attention, then we can kind of clear out the panic of all these other things and take one thing and focus. And I think that urgency can be a call to focus rather than be lost in the overwhelm of the panic. And again, it takes discipline. It takes a deliberate redirection of thought and attention. But when we succumb to the sense of panic and overwhelm, we lose our focus. We lose our ability to pay attention to the details that need attending to. And it tends to, or we can tend to spiral out because of the reactivity that we have around the things to do. The likelihood, so once you discern what's truly urgent, and urgent is something that is time bound. And if we look at urgent and important, welcome, Kimberly. So good to have you here with us. Welcome. We're talking about urgency. And when we have discerned what is urgent and important, then what we can do is prioritize those things. Sometimes if we group them together into things that we can do in a block, that can be really helpful. If we break them down into in smaller tasks, those things that are urgent. So let's say I'm moving, it's urgent that I pack. Well, it may be that there are some things that are not, maybe I don't have to pack everything at once, right? Maybe there are some things that are priorities. If I get to move, for instance, over a period of time, maybe I look at what are the most important things to have with me when I move initially. So then I can put my concentration on those things. So for instance, if I'm on a timeline and I have all these files, is it urgent that I go through all the files before I pack them? No, it's not urgent. Not if, it's not as urgent as other things. Would it be nice to have all of that sorted so I don't have to take things with me into the new space? Yeah, it would be nice. But is it urgent? To be looking at really what is important and what is urgent. So, hello, Ruth. Is that Ruth or is that Dido? I'm not sure who it is, but whoever it is, welcome, welcome. It's great to have you here with us. And Jenny says it's urgent. I find a car to buy. And important, it sounds like, Jenny. So that means that you get to put your attention on that, not in a sense of panic or stress, but to be able to use that urgency as an impetus for focus and directed attention. And so many of us deal with overwhelm. And this season is often a time for that because we want to be wrapping up things for the year, and we have holidays and we have family and we have all kinds of things on our plate. And so sorting through with discernment can be one of the greatest gifts we give ourselves to find a greater sense of peace in the process of taking care of all the things that we get to take care of. And a lot of times, like maybe I have people coming for dinner, and I want the house to be neat and clean. I do get to consider is what in that cleanup is important. Is it as important as shopping for the groceries for dinner? Is it urgent? Is it essential? We get to weigh what we are prioritizing, and oftentimes we assume our priorities based on other people's values. And so it's important to, in our discernment, connect with what our true values are. Like, are we doing something because other people think we should be doing it? Or are we doing it because it is in alignment with our values and our personal priorities? And I don't know about you, but I have gone through times where I've made to-do lists, and what I notice is that there are certain to-dos that just keep staying on that list and they don't get done. And finally, after a point, what I realize is that for me, those things are neither important nor are they urgent. And when I'm honest with myself about it, I can take them off the list, or I can put them on a someday, one day list, and not have, I can relieve myself of all the considerations and concerns around it. And so I think that this is an important thing too with the overwhelm. I notice that with the to-do lists, I've often listed all kinds of things that I don't consider a personal priority, but when they're on that list, they become very overwhelming. So Jenny says it's 10 degrees here. Oh my gosh. So everybody stay warm, and that might be a challenge, right? So again, this sense of urgency can throw us into a state of being that leaves us very unresourceful, that leaves us in a place where we're scattered. We're, oh my gosh, Jenny says -10. Holy moly, that's insane. I can't even conceive of that. But anyway, getting back to this, what happens when we get into this panic, this urgency panic, is that we lose our ability to clearly just systematically take care of the things we need to take care of, because our emotional state is so disrupted and disruptive. So let's take a look at the using this curated urgency, this conscious choosing around urgency to be an inspiration, to be a motivator, rather than something that overwhelms us. Because what happens too is with these big lists, you become so, I don't know about you, but I become so overwhelmed that I end up doing nothing because I can't really focus. So if we can tackle these things systematically by first categorizing them, urgent and important, urgent, not important. Some of those we can just probably get off the list completely. Important, but not urgent. And the easiest ones to get rid of are going to be the not urgent and not important. They get to go off the list completely. So Rosalind says, often I get immobilized and tend to do nothing when I get overwhelmed. You and everybody else, Rosalind. And so what we're talking about here is how to overcome that sense of overwhelm. And the way this systematic approach can be really, really helpful, because when we use that filter to sort through the things on the list, then the list is transformed. So Jenny says little bites. Exactly. One thing at a time. Kimberly says that makes me mentally paralyzed. Thank you for the subject. I've been caring about a lot lately. So I think a lot of us are, especially because the end of the year is approaching. So there's a perceived urgency around getting certain things done. And so for instance, I'm thinking of some folks that I've been working with to get finances in order. And one of the things that is urgent is that we pay our bills on time, right? And that may mean that we need to balance certain accounts so that we know where our money is, so to be able to pay. Maybe you know that there's enough money in the account to take care of those bills. The urgent part is paying the bills. The important part is balancing those accounts. And because the accounts are important but not urgent, you might be able to move that back down lower on the list. So Kimberly says, I say piece by piece. Piece by piece works too. Little by little, piece by piece, step by step, whatever it takes to allow us to be present to the thing that we were avoiding because of the deep sense of overwhelm. So Rosalind says, there's time to try it all, but not without prioritizing your time. If that item falls the list after all, then it might feel okay at that time because it doesn't have such a strong hold or desire as it does today. So exactly, the someday, one day list is a wonderful thing. And sometimes we get to those things. Sometimes we have an inner impulse that says, oh, I would really like to do that. That's the someday, one day. So for instance, I just thought of important but not urgent. What's important but not urgent eventually can become urgent and important. So for instance, I've talked to you about moving to Mexico. Well, it's going to be important that I learn Spanish. At this moment, it's not urgent. So yes, it's important, but no, it's not urgent at this moment. As it comes closer to the time that I'm going to move, it will become more urgent. And Jenny says, someday never comes. You know, the someday one day list, I've had painting on my someday one day list for a long time. And now I'm actually starting to do it. And so I venture to say that someday can come if it's something that lights us up and is a heart's desire, then, or that we get this impulse to, you know, like, I don't know about you, but cleaning, for instance, I'm not a big fan. I don't love doing it. And there are times when I just get into a cleaning frenzy and I clean everything. And there are other times where I can't make myself do that no matter what. So those are the someday things, you know, like someday I'll clean out that drawer. Well, now I'm actually cleaning out those drawers. So that's kind of a wild thing when the someday comes, but it can. Anyway, I hope that this discernment around urgent and important and not urgent, not important, those two particularly, I hope that's helpful in helping you to approach the overwhelm of massive to-dos and to allow you to create greater focus and attention for yourselves. And that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel at 9 a.m. Eastern. And Rosalind says, make time for everything that brings you joy and happiness, whether that be exercise, reading a book, meditation, travel. Mine is cooking, going to make tamales. Oh, that sounds so fun, Rosalind. Enjoy. And Jenny says, have a warm day, everyone, ladies. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, and encourage you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network, EWN One with the Earth, and Enlightened World Living. And until next time, so much love to you.